Hey everyone, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2017 and thank you for being here on my YouTube channel. This is the first video of the year for me and I wanted to just speak about the color of my hair. If you've watched anything else, yes, I went from the ashy blonde look to the dark reddish brown because it called to me. It was something I've been wanting to do for a long time and I finally decided to treat myself to it. So here we are. And on to the reason why I'm doing this video, which is when nothing else works. You see, more people than not end up with health conditions that seem to get progressively worse or end up with additional symptoms, or they just never get over the original concern that they had, and other things tend to evolve as a result. So I thought I would just talk about that a little bit today because, because it is such an issue that we don't necessarily address or even consider because why it's become such a normal experience for us. In my last video, I talked a lot about what we consider to be normal. And, when it comes to symptoms, there are just certain things, such as really bad cramps or heavy clotting and during a menstrual cycle, insomnia, aches and pains in the joints as we get older. I mean, we start to attribute these things, erectile dysfunction for that matter. We begin to attribute these things to aging, part of being in the family, just, wear and tear on the body. And while some of that may be true, there is reason to realize that these are not necessarily normal. We've accepted them as a way of life, as an experience of life, but it's not necessarily meant to be. It actually can be reversed. It can be prevented. And so that's really that's the reason why we end up getting to the point when nothing else works. In fact, the mere suggestion that it's just like, well, this is as good as it gets, right? We've hit the wall, so to speak, with our health, and we've just accepted it as just what it is. And hey, I applaud everybody who's made peace with it. And at the same time, I go, you know what? For those who are fed up and want something and believe in their heart of hearts and their gut that it doesn't have to be this way, I invite you to consider something else, because you're right, it doesn't have to be that way, especially if you're feeling like this can't be as good as it gets. And in fact, that is actually a symptom, this as good as it gets, or accept what is, that this is a part of the aging process. Anything that falls within that degree of context is really just a symptom of the conventional protocol. Now, I didn't use the word medicine on purpose because, as far as I can tell, I've been doing this for a long time, nearly 30 years. Longer than 30 years. I've been in the medical field, medical and dental actually, and it doesn't make and part of the reason why I've developed this particular methodology is because I couldn't take the conventional protocol any longer, because I had to, in my heart of hearts, believed that there was something more, that we didn't have to hit the wall. It didn't have to be so complicated. People didn't have to be so sick. There didn't have to be so much pain, that we shouldn't, that aging isn't supposed to be a crippling experience, that it's, they call it our golden years for a reason. And I understand that there are signs that the body's beginning to wear down. I just refuse to accept the fact that it has to be painful and uncomfortable at best. And so I set out to find a different way, to explore new worlds, to actually find the root cause. And that's what we really get into in this new program of mine called Breaking the Cycle of Disease Management, because really when you've hit the wall, you're in the cycle of disease management. And So, like I said, it's a conventional protocol, not just conventional medicine, because quite frankly, pharmaceuticals are more in touch with what is the root cause of our illnesses, more so than holistic and alternative, because holistic and alternative is still basing primarily their practices off of what has been passed down from generation to generation. And you know what? There's some real genuine gifts in that. There's a lot of valuable information that is it is very beneficial to us, but it's not really getting to the root of the problem, because when you're passing information from generation to generation, there's how do I want to say that? Even though that our ancestors were on track with how to deal with health or how to take care of health, they really didn't understand. They were modeling themselves after nature, and we've just passed this on. But the problem is that the human body has adapted over centuries, so we're no longer the same species that we were when a lot of these practices were implemented. So we have to keep that in mind. And as far as pharmaceuticals are concerned, they actually do pay attention to the mechanism of action of these active ingredients and how they are affecting us on a cellular level. Again, these are things that I address in both the breaking the cycle of disease management, and even more so in my upcoming course on stress. So there is a reason why we keep hitting the wall. And breaking free of this conventional protocol is absolutely necessary. So it's not just medicine. We're not just, the conventional protocol is symptom chasing. I guess let me just get to the bottom line there. It is just symptom chasing. And so we have to be willing to and able to get beyond the symptom and understand that there is an underlying characteristic that connects everything. So I'll give you an example. Recently, I was with a client, an Amish woman. As you know, I work with the Amish, and she's in her mid-50s. But since she was since her late teens, she was been living with rheumatoid arthritis. So, in December, apparently, she had to go to the hospital. Well, let me back up a minute. So she's been living with rheumatoid arthritis. She has been diagnosed with anxiety. She was diagnosed with anxiety over 10 years ago. Not surprising given the arthritis, but at any rate, so she was diagnosed with anxiety 10 years ago, placed on a medication for that has known side effects to cause diarrhea. And so she's been dealing with bouts of diarrhea for most of her adult life, over at least the last 10 years. So anyway, like I said, she's a client of mine. I've been assisting her with her immune system because she's had other issues. She's had respiratory issues throughout her life. She's even had sepsis. So she's been being treated accordingly. With each flare-up of something, she's been treating it. So at any rate, she hired me a couple of months ago, and we've been primarily working with stabilizing her immune system, except when I let her know, because she was concerned about this diarrhea, and I explained to her that it's very possible that this medication was doing this, and that I tried to give her some nutritional suggestions, but it was hard for her to keep it up, and of course eventually had a really bad bout of it, which took her to the hospital because she was concerned. She wasn't sure if she was actually coming down with something else. So in the hospital, she was told that they really couldn't pinpoint the cause of her diarrhea. She really didn't have any other issues as far as sickness is concerned. She didn't have the stomach virus. Nothing. They couldn't figure it out. So they made some nutritional suggestions to her as well. I have, and she doesn't want to come off her medication, which is absolutely okay, but she's going to have to find a way to support this unless she wants to continue to have these extreme bouts. So this was the beginning of December. She was in there for almost a week, I think closer to 10 days, just for the diarrhea. So then after that, she ends up with a backache, a pretty severe lower backache over the Christmas holiday, and then subsequently developed a pretty severe cold. Well, I didn't hear from her this entire time and was in her home the other day, and she had gone to see a chiropractor for the back pain, and the chiropractor couldn't find anything wrong with her back. Was unable to relieve the back pain. And in the meantime, I was sitting there speaking with her sister, who started sharing all this information with me about what had happened. So I sat down with my client herself and began to speak with her about all of these things, and explained to her, I'm sorry, again, let me back up. The sister informed me, because I said to her, what did they do for her in the hospital other than just, run tests? And she says, well, they put her on potassium. They said her potassium levels were low. Okay, fine. That's understandable given that she's, not able to, there's so much fluid running through her. And then she says to me, but they also treated her for, they were giving her something because they said her white blood cell count was low. And I thought that was particularly odd, because that would be a sign of low iron. And the sister couldn't remember what they had given her. So when my client was available, I started speaking with her, and she, at that point, and I said to her, I said, well, here's the interesting thing, Anna. I said, it sounds to me like they were trying to treat you for low iron while you were in the hospital, and low iron will actually contribute to low back pain. And what's even more interesting is that, the rheumatoid arthritis, there's different aspects to our immune system. And again, we get into this with the breaking the cycle of disease management, but the macrophages, which are generally triggered by the innate immunity, actually influence the adaptive immune system, which is where the rheumatoid arthritis is. That's where the antibodies are for rheumatoid arthritis. So the macrophages then, when they're excited, and there's too many of them floating throughout the system, they will actually inhibit the release of iron. Now, here's where it gets very interesting. So she has a higher level of antibodies in her body because of the RA, which are preempting the release of iron, but iron is needed for the assimilation of vitamin C so that the innate immune system can protect our body from colds and flus. So here you have a catch-22, because her own immune system is interfering with her release of iron, which is then preventing her immune system from protecting her from getting, these other, and so this is the reason why she's had issues throughout her life. Now, I suspect there could be something else in there, which is the dormant microbes like bacteria and viruses that I'm probably going to do another video on, because that's absolutely fascinating information, and I think it's really important for us to be looking at these things as well. But there is a particular bacteria that when these microbes go dormant, they feed off the host cell, and there's one in particular that can lead to significant respiratory and cardiovascular issues. However, that said, Anna was telling me that she has been being told her entire life, basically her entire adult life rather, that she's been borderline anemic. Every time she goes and has blood work done or any kind of anything done, they test her, and her iron is consistently low. And so this played heavily into, I'm certain as to what's going on, because iron also helps to keep our bowels solid, and if our bowel movement's solid. So that's the reason why you can't take too much iron, because it'll constipate you. So there's a whole mechanism here that, yes, so this medication is possibly depleting her iron, or it's, she's been chronically low with iron her entire life before this medication, and it's maybe that causing the diarrhea. So, but regardless, where the my guess is, quite frankly, I got ahead of myself there. I got really excited. the way it all plays out, it's not the medication as I initially thought it was. The medication is not necessarily causing it, because her low iron issues have been going on prior to the use of the medication. Therefore, has been triggering these. Now, the inclusion of the medication has made them increasingly worse. But if we can get her iron levels back up, we can protect her from colds and flus. She'd have much better, stronger protection, and she'd have solid bowels. But this is the reason, what I say, when nothing else works, you got to get to the underlying chemistry. And, it's funny because I know people who take these different supplements, including iron supplement, and you can take these things, but if your body's not, the body stores iron in the liver, and if it's not releasing it, which is hormonally regulated, then you're going to be low no matter how much you take. Same thing to be said for vitamin D. In fact, vitamin D is a hormone, but that's a whole nother topic, and it's also something we talk about in my course. So I'm going to put those links in the description box below, because I would love for you to join in. What I'm doing at this point is encouraging people to sign up and giving them the concierge program, which is your personalized assessment with ongoing support to get you stabilized and get you going, so that you can actually see how this really works. Because everybody, in my mind and my heart, deserves to feel well. And the more we do this for ourselves, the more we can participate with our clinicians, the more we can actually help direct them to the root of the problem. And like I said, the root of the problem is evident, and our scientists understand this, and this is the primary target of pharmaceuticals. And all of this works together. There's not one technique that is better than another. Even my methodology works in tandem with other protocols. It's just addressing the root of the issue, and that's the part that I want people to get to, because at that point, then like I said, we can work with our clinicians, and then from there we can actually teach our children how to do this for themselves and possibly offset any significant health issues for them in the future. So I invite you to join me on these courses, and let's journey into wellness, because we deserve it. And it's a new day, it's a new year, it's a new time to feel good. So I look forward to hearing from you. Comment below, please, and as well as take a look at the courses and let me know what I can help you with. All right, take care. Bye.